We request you to keep an A4 size paper and a pen ready. Kindly write or print AMDG on the empty paper. During the prayer, you and your community or family members shall be requested to sign on the paper. Dear friends, we, the Ignatian family, are once again at the threshold of the feast of our founder, Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Transcending the barriers of distance, we have come together, one in spirit, to celebrate the life of Saint Ignatius. What a different world we are in. We live in times of new normal that keeps evolving. The existing world order has been destabilized, and humanity has been brought to its knees with its pride in controlling the very elements of the universe. There is so much pain, panic, fear, and uncertainty. Our lives, our perceptions, our hopes have altered. We are gathered this evening for the conversations of the heart. It is a conversation that takes us closer to God, to our fellow human beings, to the members of Ignatian family. Though we are physically apart from each other, let the conversations of the heart foster our bond and enable us to work for the greater glory of God. Let us also look at the world with the eyes of the divine. We observe the world of pandemic, of collaboration and networking, of altruism, of new normal, of migrants, of jobless people, etc. In the 16th century, through the conversations of the heart, God called Ignatius of Loyola to partner with him in his divine enterprise, and Ignatius responded willingly with a desire to help his neighbor and with the motto to work for the greater glory of God.
Saint Ignatius was born in the Basque area of Spain in the year 1491. In his early life, he pursued a worldly career as a courtier and soldier. At the end of 30, in a battle against the French at the Pamplona, he was struck down by a cannonball. Both of his legs were wounded. During a long period of recuperation, he had no books to read except a life of Christ and a collection of the lives of the saints. God inspired him to follow their example. He traveled to Montserrat, a Benedictine monastery west of Barcelona, and there committed himself to follow a new kind of life. His conversion was deepened through a 10-month stay at Manresa, a town about 10 miles from Montserrat, where God spoke to him powerfully. Ignatius greatly desired to share this experience of God with others. But in those days, it was dangerous for an unschooled layman to teach publicly about religious matters. He had to go back to school at the age of 30 and became a priest. He went to the University of Paris. There he found companions, among them Francis Xavier, who was to become a renowned Jesuit missionary to the East. Later, these companions, now a group of 9, decided to offer themselves to the Pope for whatever ministry he wanted them to undertake. They came to realize that God was calling them to form a new type of religious order, to be sent on a moment's notice to any part of the world where the need was the greatest. Ignatius was elected the head of his new religious order, which was called the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. Ignatius oversaw the drafting of the constitutions for the society, which expanded to 1,000 men by the time of his death in 1556.
Celebrating St. Ignatius is a call to return to our spiritual roots and traditions, to return to God. Today, as we look at our world with the eyes of God, the lifeline whispers in our ears saying, "I have a vision for the world." As I listen to God's conversation, what is my response? Am I ready to be a partner? It is a vision that promotes interconnectedness, reconciliation, peace, and justice. In the silence of our heart, let us have a conversation with the lifeline. We take courage and consolation from the knowledge that our faith can overcome any darkness, that our hope can build bridges, and that our love can heal.
Today, COVID-19 decides our mode of celebration. How many, where and when, all these have to be considered for any kind of a get-together, if at all we do that. In spite of our desires, today we cannot celebrate St. Ignatius' feast the way we desire. Instead, we are asked to maintain social distancing, a new type of normality that we call the new normal. Therefore, the common purpose, the common end of social distancing is the safeguarding of all and the rest of humanity. That is the common good that is behind this social distancing. Perhaps that social distancing that we call today as our bounden duty is related to the principle and foundation. In the principle and foundation, we talk about relating and connecting with everything to the extent that it serves our end purpose. We say tantum quantum, in as much as it helps us for our end purpose. And our end purpose is God, wholeness, integrity. This means that we are invited to be interconnected with all, to belong to the entirety, to belong to God, who is in all and in everything. Therefore, Ignatius is inviting us to dream big with this larger picture in the light of what we are calling social distancing. May Ignatius bless us with the graces to dream big, to choose with the whole, and to belong to everyone.
For Jesuits, compassion is action. The authenticity of the encounter with God is defined by how much we are moved to compassion and action towards the redressal of suffering of the vulnerable and the excluded.
I'm delighted to accept this invitation to speak to you on the Feast of St. Ignatius Loyola. Every year it's such a great moment for the society around the world, and as you can see, I'm wearing a kurta that I got when I was helping to give a workshop in Jamshedpur, and I'm just delighted also it's green, so it's the colour of my native country, Ireland. So St. Ignatius, I'm the counsellor for discernment and planning, and also the director of communications. Discernment, obviously it started in the early days of the church, but Ignatius's genius was to put a kind of a system in place, or to reflect on it in such depth that he was able to pass this on right to us in the present day and age. What a marvelous capacity to reflect and to organize. Ignatius was clear that we can somehow get in touch with God's dream for the world. Get in touch with what's the Trinity hoping to do? What's the Trinity trying to do as it looks with love on this world, looks with compassion? We can get in touch with that. God's dream, God communicates God's dreams to us. And the preferences express the dream of the Society of Jesus for the next period of time. Given to us by Pope Francis, discerned by us in this very inclusive process. So the preferences are God's dream. And we are asked then to discern further and to live out that dream. So my prayer for you, my desire for all of us in the society and for our mission partners is that we use this Feast of St. Ignatius, we get in touch again with God's dream inside myself, God's dream for me, and then that we live that dream in closeness to the poor, in listening to young people, in care for the common home, and that we are following in this great tradition of St. Ignatius Loyola. St. Ignatius Loyola, pray for us.
To burn with love for God, this is the essence of the life of St. Ignatius. St. Ignatius had a burning love for the God he served, a love defined by his very life. The Ignatian family today is born out of the burning love of God that consumed him.
One of the strengths of the Jesuits is their ability to raise questions and respond creatively to emerging concerns and realities. In the field of education, for instance, the Jesuits have always been pioneers. With the COVID-19 pandemic, I feel you are being challenged once again to take the lead. As you search for innovative solutions, it may be a good idea to consult with Jesuits in Africa who have learned to provide education in the face of poverty, conflict, refugees, and recurring epidemics. In the end, your option for the poor may be these young people's only hope for equity, equality, and a future. On the economic front, I believe Jesuits have an important role to play in reducing inequalities in labor markets by reskilling workers. Within the Church, I look to the Jesuits of South Asia to offer the faithful spirituality that is not bound by church walls or patriarchal constructs. I look to you to walk beside us, to seek with us, to learn from us, and to let your hearts burn within you as you encounter God in us. And finally, I ask that you relook at GC 34 Statement on Women in Church and Civil Society, issued 25 years ago. How much of an impact has this document had on your institutions? Is there genuine involvement of women in consultation and decision-making in Jesuit ministries? Do you listen to women in a spirit of partnership and equality, or is there condescension? Do you catch yourself asking in every situation, what about women?
Like said Ignatius, each one of us is called not to just love God, but to fall in love, deeply in love with God. What better way to express our love to God than as expressed in Gitanjali?
When the heart is hard and parched up, come upon me with a shower of mercy. When grace is lost from life, come with a burst of song. When tumultuous work raises its din on all sides, shutting me out from beyond, come to me, my Lord of silence, with thy peace and rest. When my beggarly heart sits crouched, shut up in a corner, break open the door, my King, and come with the ceremony of a king. When the desire blinds the mind with delusion and dust, O thou Holy One, thou wakeful, come with thy light and thy thunder.
The spirituality of Saint Ignatius is ever relevant. Not just Jesuits, not just religious, but even ordinary people from all walks of life can draw inspiration from his life and the spiritual exercises. When hunger became more threatening than the virus, hundreds of collaborators joined hands with Jesuits in reaching out to the unreached.
Pro bono e vero caught my eyes in the emblem of St. Joseph College High School when I entered the room of the towering personality, Reverend Father Machado. There were other Jesuits in the campus who inspired me. The universal apostolic preferences, which is guided by the Ignatian spirit, preserving the earth and walking with the poor, and especially Conference of South Asia is doing a lot of help for the migrant laborers. Universal apostolic preferences is walking with the young. So the alumni activities, we are focusing more on mentoring and honing up the skill of the youngsters. And yet another tenet of the universal apostolic preferences is to preserve the Mother Earth. And the Jesuit Alumni Association is striving its best with the collaboration and guidance of the Jesuit fathers.
Who will speak for the poor and the voiceless? Who will speak for the people's oppressed? Who will speak so their voice can be heard? Oh, who will speak if we don't? Who will speak for the poor and the voiceless? Who will speak for the people's oppressed? Who will speak so their voice can be heard? Oh, who will speak if we don't?
Priya and I, former committee members of the Department of Interreligious Studies at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, volunteered to be a part of a nationwide network of volunteers called Stranded Workers Action Network, or SWAN. Swans sprang forth from individuals who had volunteered with the Right to Work or the Right to Food campaigns and wished to reach out to the migrant workers. These migrant workers who had come out onto the streets during the lockdown, desperate to go home. They would shut their doors at the first sign of danger, and central government too turned a blind eye to their fears and woes, imposing a unilateral and an unplanned policy of lockdown with a heavy hand. We attended to distress calls, networked and fundraised to be able to arrange food and travel for these workers. Governance that was insensitive and not accountable to the workers' right to life, right to food, right to dignity, the most basic of human rights. The reports were published online and in newspapers and were also used as documentation by lawyers and activists in the Supreme Court to counter the status reports given by government sources. Three of us are very grateful to Father Prashant, who sensitized and encouraged us to respond to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. I'm also privileged to share in the Jesuit mission of integrating ecology, justice, and interreligious dialogue. The three of us were thrilled when Father Prashant called us the interfaith Jesuitesses.
Who will speak for the poor and the voiceless? Who will speak for the peoples oppressed? Who will speak so their voice can be heard? Oh, who will speak if we don't? Who will speak for the poor and the voiceless? Who will speak for the peoples oppressed? Who will speak so their voice can be heard? Oh, who will speak if we don't?
Being a teacher in a Jesuit school for 35 years has been a big blessing in my life because it has exposed me to Ignatian spirituality. The life of the saint himself has been a big inspiration. St. Ignatius went to school almost at the age of 37, decided to educate himself, and without any ego, with complete humility, he learned to mix with little children. This is a very big inspiration for me. During these times, we teachers have had to move to online teaching. I've had to completely unlearn and relearn teaching techniques. And it's inspiring, just like the saint did, to be a lifelong learner. Discernment is a very important aspect of Ignatian spirituality. In these days of the pandemic, when we're surrounded by so much news, often fake, we need to be able to discern what is right, what is wrong, what's the truth, what is not, and be able to take our own judgments.
Inigo the soldier, we were told, was daring and skilled in his fighting at the battleground. He developed the best skills of the day for this purpose. Possibly, it was his inborn nature to be fit for excellence in whatever he undertook. This character of Inigo impresses me till date. The second part of his life, which is the main part for which the world remembers him in thousands of institutions of the Jesuits, is his daring life for the greater glory of God. As the lockdown dawned on us, Father William and Father Louis S.J. came to me to develop the script and propose an activity to support the people at this critical juncture. Every activity from 2nd of April 2020 was meticulously planned with different meetings and directions by the Jesuit directors of the campus. They made systematic appeals to the alumni of Loyola for their support. The support came in multifold and led us to support 4,844 families with food rations to last for a meaningful period. Our volunteers teams were inspired by the regular presence of the Jesuit fathers who led us in prayer before the starting of every day's work. For the greater glory of God, we were able to take up this work daringly in the footsteps of the founder, St. Ignatius.
Being a collaborator and a professor of history at St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, I feel honored to be a part of such a great institution where education means the holistic development of students, forming them to be responsible citizens for tomorrow. What I have learned from the life of St. Ignatius of Loyola is that you should never count the cost of what you give in service to humanity. I feel privileged to work with the Jesuit fathers, as from them I have learned that the true value of life is to serve others, to spread love and kindness, be tolerant, be respectful to all, irrespective of their caste, class, creed, and gender.
I have been a collaborator with the Jesuits of Kerala for well over half a century. Naturally, I have been very much influenced by Ignatian spirituality. Finding God in all things is one of the central characteristics of Ignatian spirituality. I reflect on the deeper meaning and purpose of life during this lockdown period caused by the coronavirus. Naturally, spiritual exercises comes to my help. As a professor and a Sunday school teacher, I have always made use of his spiritual exercises and try to share the message of that spirituality with my students. Now, with the Loyola Institute's initiatives like Lipi with its publications Pax Lumina, Edith, and Snehasena and Titig Life, we try to pass on this message to the next generation and the youth.
Legal Cell for Human Rights, along with Kohima Region Social Action Commission, is dedicated to service of justice and peace in Northeast India. Jesuits are known for their absence to the poor and marginalized. Their approach to comfort and afflicted due to COVID-19 pandemic-induced lockdowns and Assam floods is commendable and inspiring. I, as an employee of the organization, learned much by getting involved in the work of charity, which is done for the glory of God. I now understand the joy of giving.
Sister Lily de Souza, belonging to the congregation of the Apostolic Carmel. We have been collaborating with the Jesuits of Bhopal since 2013. One of the important aspects of Ignatius spirituality that inspires me the most is their life of contemplation in action.
The aim of this distribution is to support those families which they don't have enough food. Today we distributed some foods to people of Tagap in order to support them. People were very happy and grateful to GRS and COXO. Nowadays, because of this pandemic virus, they are jobless and they cannot work and they don't have much food to consume.
I'm very happy that I am engaged in food ration distribution, and the process of recognizing vulnerable families are very clear. I am personally walked nearly 50 to 1 hour, reached to a home to survey that really that family is poor and really needs this food ration. My strong belief is this, that this food reached to most deserving families. I am hopeful to be a part of these kinds of programs to help poor people and poor families, not only in Daikondi province. That I want to help and survey all around Afghanistan.
یکی از کمک گرفتگانی مؤسسه GRS و کوکسو تشکر میکنم از شما محترمین.
من از این مؤسسه کوکسو GRS بسیار تشکر میکنم که برای امضای خانواده های فقیر و نیازمند کمک های در نظر گرفته که در این وقتی قرنطینه است که خیلی خانواده های فقیر است که نمیتونه نیاز خرج خانه خود برآورده کنه. ما بسیار تشکر میکنیم. بازم خواهشمندیم که برای همه خانواده های فقیر و نیازمند بازم کمک کنه. تشکر.
It is Patalgadi, a tribal symbol of living ancestors among us. Indigenous peoples believe in the living reality of ancestors in nature, in children, in homes. Is a pointer to the primeval creative spirit that sustains us. Ignatius invites us to find God in all things. Working migrants, suffering corona victims, and the needy poor experienced the living God as a loving God in and through the selfless service of lakhs of people who served with love in their hearts, transcending caste, creed, and religion. Let us do more in love to bring God of life, God of justice, and God of love in this world.
Every day we wake up to the number of lives lost to the virus. The pandemic has brought in so much pain, loss, and grief into our lives. Some of us may have been victims ourselves. Some of us may have lost family and friends. All of us live with the threat of being infected and affected. On a brighter side, it has been most edifying to see the corona warriors, the healthcare workers, putting themselves at risk to save lives. Every healthcare worker who has died in service of others is a grain of wheat that dies in order to produce more. Their valor and sacrifice has inspired the spirit of sacrifice in numerous others. Peace. This is what every individual and entire world seeks. The Spirit of God that moves the world can touch situations that are hopeless and bring healing. As a mark of our solidarity with the Ignatian family around the world, I now request you to sign your name on the paper on which AMDG is printed or written. Feel free to share the picture on social media with the hashtag IGNATIANFAMILY.
There are people dying in this world. Do you feel your heart is turning cold? In the waking hours we walk face down, for this mist of darkness all around. Maybe now there's darkness all around you. It may seem there's no way out, no avenue, but there's light of prayer that's deep within your heart. Let it shine, let it tear this night apart. Asatoma sadgamaya tamsoma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Let there be peace on the earth. Sa 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 ni sa re sa re sa 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 ni sa re sa re ga pa ga re sa re ga pa ga re sa re ga pa ga re ga re sa ni sa. Can you hear your neighbors lament? Lot of injustices, lots to repent. All the malice, hatred, and blatant lies, spreading darkness in us, don't we realize? Every day many are oppressed and agonized, laid to death, condemned, disdained, dehumanized. Many lives still keep on walking on a tightrope. Let's do our part, at least bring a glint of hope. Asatoma sadgamaya tamsoma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Let there be peace on the earth. Oh, 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 oh,
Hey, we can't escape this lockdown. Migrants find no way to get back to their hometown. Fake news, propaganda, it's a breakdown. Reporters yelling on my TV are just clowns. Man's a hero, they say that the man cares, but any chance to grab money, he never spares. Migrants keep walking, no train, neither one bus. And in this crisis, you know who is saving us? Our heroes are saving us. Just look around, you will find them. The police in the streets are saving us. The doctors and the nurses are saving us. Our real heroes in the streets are saving us. And mothers praying for their kids are saving us. In this time so alarming, some hope they are giving. Are we even seeing their own lives they are risking? kingdom. Media isn't bothered, their souls they are selling. In such times of trouble to you, O God, we are turning. To hear our cry, we know you'll hear our prayer. Bring peace into this world, we know you care.
Come against Allah, come against Rama, come against Jesus, come save us now. We your people are in this together, praying for your reign now. Sare gama gari sare, asatoma sadgamaya, tamsoma jyotirgamaya, mrityoma amritam gamaya. Let there be peace on the earth. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamsoma jyotirgamaya, mrityoma amritam gamaya. Let there be peace on the earth. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamsoma jyotirgamaya, mrityoma amritam gamaya. Let there be peace on the earth.
Yo, to all the people out there, let peace be our religion. All we need is love.
This evening's conversation between God and us has filled us with gratitude and generosity. Gratitude for what the Lifeline has done for us. God has journeyed with us during this pandemic, giving us hope and courage. Our grateful heart is generous, and we want to recommit ourselves, want to give ourselves fully to the work of peace and reconciliation. Let us continue to be generous like Ignatius was. Let us live for God's greater glory and for the welfare of others. Let us make the prayer attributed to Saint Ignatius our own.
Dear friends, I take this opportunity to wish every one of Jesuit companions or collaborators a very happy feast.